I've been working on transforming this Jeep Gladiator toy for a few months now, and it's gotten a frame, suspension, steering, and a drivetrain, and in this video I'm getting much closer to driving it by putting in a better engine, custom intake and exhaust, and more coilovers? All right, well, what's better than 2 coilovers? Probably 4, so that's what I did. Came to my attention, as I talked about in the last episode, that this back end was just too soft. I was sinking down on it a little too far, a little too close to the body. I'll throw in a clip of that right here. Anyway, so 4 coilovers on there. It's much stiffer now. Now we get to move on to something really exciting. More horsepower. I picked up a Predator Ghost 212cc engine, and that'll replace the one that's mocked up in here right now. So we've got a regular torque converter on here that'll get transferred over. Pretty much the only thing that I've done to this engine, it's got a bigger carb jet, it had a free-flowing exhaust, basically just a stack with a glass pack stuck in it, and an intake with a bigger air filter adaptation there. So that made maybe a little more horsepower than a bone stock one, but we're going to the big leagues now. We're going to the performance one. It's also going to raise the top speed by a lot because the rev limit goes way, way up to 6,000, something like that. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to get it plopped in there and just see what works, what doesn't, what's different, what's the same, all those sorts of things. Let's try it out. I've got to trim this oil fill cap down. I made it work on the other one somehow, but this one doesn't seem like it's going to sit flat. All right, so the new Ghost motor is in there, just like the old one was, with the torque converter on it. Now we've got the intake to sort out. There's a curved intake tube option that I'm probably gonna have to switch to, but I'm gonna put the body on here and see how this completely different shaped carburetor all fits with that. Okay, so we're having some general carburetor packaging and interference issues. As you saw in the last clip, I modified the choke. I had to flip it around 180 degrees, so it used to be down here. Now it's up here. As you can see, it still chokes. Got that all put back together here. Had to bend the rod a little bit too to clear the flange. Anyhow, so that was hitting the firewall because this is pretty much where the carburetor has to go, right in this area. Has to go there because of this filter primarily. Primarily the filter has to stick out through the wheel well hole here. So that's a big thing. And you'd think, well, perfect. With this cast aluminum bend here, that should just fit right in there swell, shouldn't it? But the problem is that the bottom of the carburetor stuff, the fuel drain and the little valve for that, and the bottom of the bowl casing, all that stuff hits this frame rail down here real hard. So can't use the new cast aluminum one, and obviously on the face of it can't use the old one because everything just smashes into the firewall and there's just no hope there. So what I'm gonna have to do probably is pie cut this thing so that we can get the bend we need, a really tight little bend, and so the carb can stay exactly where it needs to sit. And so I'll probably cut that apart, take it, and then see how everything fits. Alrighty, well, it took a very long time to get this little thing figured out, but the intake runner is in there now, and the carburetor and the air filter both fit. Choke clears the body and all that sort of stuff. I ended up using galvanized 3/4 EMT electrical conduit for this. That was about the only thing I could find that was the right diameter and even remotely bendable in this size. So that's what I worked with. It took me a while to get there, but it's on there. I did also say that I was going to use the TIG torch to do it, but I ended up trying a lot and it didn't work out. I'm okay with it on flat surfaces, thicker materials, but the pipe and the flanges are vastly different thicknesses, and they're kind of crunched together in a tight little area. It just did not go well. I was burning through. So I will work on that off camera, my TIG torch skills that is, and eventually maybe I'll get to where I can use that for something more often. Anyway, we'll be MIGging the rest of the stuff on this build probably, and that's okay. It'll be stronger and better looking, even doing MIG on very thin material. So anyway, speaking of thin material, exhaust is the next thing. The port is right there. It's probably going to come out and go down there between the torque converter pulleys, or back here between the firewall and the pulley, or something like that. I do have to trim the body real quick here to make sure it's in the right spot so we don't put the exhaust somewhere where it's going to cook the plastic. But anyway, we're going to come from this port right here, and we're going to go down underneath somehow or another, wiggle around some stuff, and then come all the way back here and have a muffler up under the frame right there. I'm going to get some stuff in place, and then we'll see how it is. Okay, so I got a nice pile of pre-bent 1.5" mild steel tubing here, and I've already cut and tacked in some of it here. I had a little trouble making this scrunched down thing. I tried to use an adapter because it's got to be kind of narrow to fit between these nuts on the flange there. So anyway, it didn't come out very well, but it'll do the job, I guess. And yeah, then the exhaust does go outside the frame instead of inside it anywhere, because frankly, that was just the only way to do it. If you look around the outside here, it goes down here for now, and this is where I've stopped, and from here, it's gonna have to go down under the frame. It's gonna be a really crazy routing, up past the sprocket, and then up past these coilovers here, avoiding the chain, across here, going out through the body there, out into the fender. It's gonna have to come up here and stay out of the way from the tire as much as possible, dive down, go under and out the back through the muffler that I have for it. So it's probably gonna need some little slip joints with some clamps or something on it so that I can actually take the thing apart. But other than that, I just need to cut and tack the thing together, so I'll get back with you after I've done that. Well, it turns out that the exhaust pipe expander I have is just a tiny bit too big. It's supposed to work with 1.5", but it doesn't fit in there. So I had to order a small size one, and that'll be here in one day. So until then, we're gonna do the fuel system real quick. The fuel pump goes on these two bolts here, plumbs into that, and then it'll run its lines back here to where the fuel tank's gonna go, up under the frame, back here on this side. The muffler is gonna be on that side, and the fuel tank's on this side. We'll make some little brackets, some little straps, something like that to hold it. This is the tank. It's just a standard Predator tank. I modified it a little bit, put some weird stickers on it. Ignore that, that will be changed, and then I'll probably make a hole down here in the floor somewhere, and that will let me access this fuel cap. So that's what I'm gonna do for now. Alrighty, so we got a good fuel system start going here. We got the pump, we got the line running to the pulse connection, we got the line running over here to the carburetor to fill that. Also have the fuel tank back here held up by a strap in the front there, and then the 2 straps in the back. I'm really happy with the fitment and placement. It fits perfectly in there just by happenstance. I'm really glad I got to use this old tank. The one thing that I don't have yet is just quite enough fuel line to run from the tank to the pump. So once that comes in, we'll put that in soon, probably in this video. And now I'm gonna run this breather right here somehow up under the seat, just get that up and a little higher and out of the way. And then I'm also gonna cut a hole in the bed floor to run this cap so I can put my hand down in there and get to it, probably right in this area or so. All right, well, we got our fuel filler nicely hidden down here in the bed. I'm very happy with the placement of it. It was perfect. I didn't have to cut that corner, and I didn't have to interfere with the hinge over here, and I have just enough room for my hand to go down in there and deal with the cap, just like so. Tighten that up just like that. It's down in there, nice and clean. Flip the tailgate shut, and no one will ever know it's in there. Now anyway, my small exhaust pipe expander did come in, so it's time to get back on the exhaust. All right, well, this exhaust pipe is now continued down underneath to the first exhaust hanger that I just got here, and then also got our first slip together joint here with a hose clamp on it. Hopefully that's strong enough, but if it's not, I'll try to get a sort of radiator or mini exhaust clamp that's a lot stronger design. Either way, comes up here behind the steering column, and now it's gonna arch over and go out through the fender. I gotta put the body back on to see where that's gonna be. Probably have another expansion joint and another exhaust hanger up in this area somewhere. That way this little piece right in this area can just be all on its own, and the outer pieces can pull away from it, and this piece is gonna go down here to the muffler, so we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, so I've continued the exhaust from the steering column area up here. Got another slip together connection with a clamp. Then it comes out through the fender here. Another little exhaust hanger. And then it goes and does this completely wild French horn thing, and now I suddenly have a side exit exhaust. And I know that's not what I thought I was gonna do, but that's just how it ended up. The packaging for the muffler to stick straight out the back just didn't work out. There just wasn't enough room here to hook down, and it would be too close to the tire. It's already gonna be kind of close at maximum squish. So we'll see how that goes later when it's driving. But anyway, now I'm gonna pull this exhaust off and go ahead and fully finish weld it and then heat wrap most of it. All right, well, we got ourselves a pretty much finished, fully wrapped, fully welded exhaust here, but the one last thing I want to do to it before I put it back on, probably in a future video, is put some silicone sealant spray on it because it is shedding really bad, way worse than I expected even, so I'm gonna wait on that before the exhaust goes back on, but I got the piece of fuel line in that I needed, so we're gonna run that line from the tank up to the pump here. Alrighty, so we got our fuel line plumbed in from the tank there. Runs down here through an inline filter, up behind the carburetor, and up to the pump. I'm not sure whether I'm going to stick with the zip tie setup. It's a little junky, but we'll see. Might change some things because there's going to be some routing stuff with a catch can that's going to mount down here somewhere. Anyhow, the next thing is I'm going to make a strut brace that goes between these two towers to counteract any bending loads that may occur when we're doing crazy off-road stuff. And of course it's going to be bolt on so that I can get the engine out, because otherwise it would be stuck in there forever. Okay, so we got ourselves a little strut brace tacked in there. I think it's good. It clears the fuel lines and everything like that, and should clear the hood just fine. That's about all I have time for in this video. In the next video, we're pretty much just gonna pick right back up where we left off on this thing. We got a lot of things left to do. Brakes, pedals, coat and put the exhaust back on, all those sorts of things, and a bunch of other little stuff, structural, gusseting, things like that too, that I'm sure a lot of you have noticed are really necessary on this thing with the pie cuts and all that stuff. Anyhow, and after all that, at the end of the next video, my goal, no matter how long the video is to drive the thing, to test drive it real quick at the end of the next video. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching.